Hello, my name is Dan Johnson, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the brand new episode of Doctor Who, which is entitled Lux. And this is an episode featuring the Pantheon. In this time, we have Lux, who is the god of light. This episode takes place in Miami, 1952, and I felt like it was really important for them to address the segregation and the fact that we have our first TARDIS team that is of colour, and to address it in such a way I felt was really sweet and really well thought out, because there's that line when the Doctor says that, I've toppled worlds and all this sort of stuff, and when this does get extinguished, um, then I will be more welcome in this world. But until then, I'm still going to be myself, and I'm still going to shine as if I was accepted. And I really like that sentiment. Belinda and the Doctor are absolutely excellent in this episode. Belinda is quickly becoming my favourite companion of Ncuti. I did like Millie Gibson as her companion, but I do feel like Belinda has a little bit more to her. Maybe it's because she sort of represents Donna Noble, which is probably one of the most popular companions, particularly for me, one of the most memorable. But there is something about their dynamic that is really good. Their scenes are really well written. Their humor is nice. I enjoyed the bits about being like Scooby-Doo. I also enjoy the fact that she's trying to get back home and she's trying to do this, but also there's the element of, well, actually, this is quite fun. I might go and have some more adventures while we're at it. There's also a beautiful scene when they get animated, which in itself as a sequence is really nice. But in that scene, they eventually confess to each other certain truths that they've been hiding after the first episode and after learning that they can't get directly back to May 24th. And that causes them to sort of bulk out and become more defined and get out of being 2D. Saying things like, well, actually, I am the last of the Time Lords, and there is really no way I know how to get you home, and I'm sort of just lying partly to try and make you feel better. And Belinda saying, I don't think, I don't have faith in you to actually do this job and actually get me back. And that does worry me. I felt like we're leading into a nice dynamic and a nice pairing as we go further through the series, and I'm hoping that this then develops more and more, where either she becomes more willing to be part of the TARDIS and the adventures, or I think the alternative that I probably would like more is that she sees the darkness of the Doctor and thinks, well, I've had my adventures. I've seen everything that I've not seen everything, but I've seen a lot of stuff, and a lot of it wasn't nice, and maybe it teaches the Doctor a lesson to himself as well, thinking, well, all these awful things that have happened in this series that I've seen, all the people that have died, maybe those adventures aren't supposed to be taken so lightly as I do.
I think Mr. Ringerding and his inclusion in the Pantheon is a really well executed idea. I think it's a lot better executed than it was in The Devil's Cord. I think The Devil's Cord had a lot to do, and it kind of left me feeling like it was a little bit of a bloated story, but this time it felt like they really used all of Mr. Ringerding's powers in terms of the cinema to a really nice effect and nice conclusion. Reginald Pye had a really lovely story that I found very compelling in this episode. He's being held hostage by Mr. Ringerding through his dead wife. The shot of her stepping out of the screen in black and white, and then as they spin, she becomes more solid as she turns into colour, was a really nice moment. And it was also an excellent performance. I don't think he needed necessarily to stay in the building when it blew up, but it just nicely rounded off his character as he's freeing himself from his oppressor. Mr. Ringerding is an excellent performance by Alan Cumming. He's able to show menace and humour, and it's also a technical feat. It's absolutely incredible how he's able to grow and begin to look like those AI images of The Simpsons, as if they were real. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe this is a bit of a niche. But he was a really great, scary threat for the episode. We definitely need to congratulate the effects team on their work.
Let's talk about the meta bit, shall we? So the Doctor and Belinda go on some traps. I'm not entirely sure how those traps work in the context of the universe, whether Ringding is can manipulate the film to make these extra things, like making the theatre and pretending like it's a reality and it's in fact not, which was quite a clever scene. But then again, when we leave this film and they push through the screen, which is a nice visual look anyway, the Doctor meets Doctor Who fans, which generally I'm opposed to, because I think that there is a very thin line that I don't want them to cross, and they seem to be getting closer and closer to it. I think that in a world like Doctor Who, you can bend the laws as much as you like. You can make it as ridiculous and bring it into science fiction, fantasy as much as you like. But I think when you start trying to make it the real world to the degree that you're bringing in Doctor Who fans, I think that that makes it feel like a caricature of itself and makes it feel like it can no longer really rely on its own universe being coherent or being like set within its own lore because, well, the Doctor just bursts out the TV and he's standing there in a room full of Doctor Who merchandise and Doctor Who fans, and that I'm not a massive fan of. Although I do like the sentiment of that scene. I liked a lot of the jokes. For example, talking about Blink, because Blink is extremely popular and ironically ends up being really high on every single ranking list, wherever it may be. Blink is always near the top. I also liked the element of, well, I knew this was going to happen because it got leaked, and I'm pretty sure that this element did get leaked earlier in the week when they were talking about casting, I think, and people were cast as Doctor Who fans. I particularly liked the reference to Rip Doctor Who. I feel like she wouldn't say that if she was such an avid fan of Doctor Who, but to sort of poke fun at that, I quite liked, because Doctor Who, particularly Russell, is very good at seeing what the internet landscape is like, and for someone that spends, time in the community, seeing that represented on screen is a nice little thing that I can get out of it. For casual fans like my friends, they aren't going to have a clue about the Rip Doctor Who or the leaks, and to be honest, only a few of them have seen Blink, so it's kind of a little bit odd, I think, for new fans or for people that's just trying to get started. And there's this walking in, there's lots of Doctor Who DVDs like I have on my shelf behind me and stuff like that might put them off a little bit. But the sentiment of this scene saying, like, these people became my friends because of Doctor Who is something that I and many people can share, because a lot of my friends, particularly ones I met when I was younger, my girlfriend, for example, my relationship with her dad is mostly about Doctor Who. So that I really appreciated, and I liked that element. It's very sweet, although I would like to get back to the real story and go back to the real world of Doctor Who. I'm just not a fan of the idea of essentially someone running up to you, slapping you in the face and say, "You're watching a TV show." And finally, we get a really satisfying conclusion to the episode. I was actually quite, not emotional, but I was actually quite touched by the ending when everyone comes out and that lad gets to see his mum again. I thought that was a really nice full circle moment where at the beginning they get kidnapped, at the end they have returned safely. I was really impressed with this episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the effects, the acting, just about everything was spot on. Even the bit that I didn't like with the meta stuff, which is just not my cup of tea, but it may be for many other people, I didn't mind as much as I thought I was initially going to. Like I say, thought it had nice sentiment to it and thought it was actually quite a nice thing to do in terms of an experiment within the episode. Now, next week, I'm away next weekend, so I won't be able to film the review on the Saturday. I come back Sunday night. Maybe I can get it finished before I go to bed that night. I'm not entirely sure, but let's hope I can. But if you don't see it on Sunday night, then expect it on Monday morning. And I'm very looking forward to The Well and what secrets may be the main villain of that story. I've just had delivered today a copy of the War Games on Colour, the steelbook that I'm going to be reviewing. Filming a review later today and probably uploading for Monday. So please come back if you're interested in seeing that. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.